I'm talking to Charla Bosman, who is the winemaker of Sijnn, Sijnn. Just as a way of welcome, Charla, first of all, it's nice to see you. Just give us a little background to Sijnn Wines.
So Sijnn Wines is situated in the middle of nowhere in Malgas. It's about 40 kilometers away from Swellendam. And yes, it's basically on the Breda River. And we've planted some very interesting varieties here, Mediterranean cultivars. The owner is David Trafford, and he came here about 15 years ago. There was nothing planted here. So quite the pioneer to plant something in such a unique site. And the soils really reminded him of Châteauneuf-du-Pape in France, and then of the Douro in Portugal. And yes, now 15 years later, we have a cellar here. I manage the vineyards and the cellar, and we're a very small team working here. We're about 5 people who work on the farm, and we do everything from picking to pruning to packing to labeling to bottling to everything. So it's a very tight knit. We're not all family, but we treat each other as family, and a few chickens and dogs also in the mix.
Charla, how has the lockdown for COVID-19 affected you on the farm?
So yes, it's obviously been a tough time because the wine industry hasn't been able. Initially, they said we could export, and then they stopped exporting, and obviously no sales locally. So it's been really tough. Luckily, on the farming side, we could continue with the farming, and we could finish the harvest at least, and we could finish up in the cellar and just finish up the basics and the essentials. And yes, and a few weeks back, we could start exporting. And luckily, our wines are, we do about 50-60% export. So our wines were exported. And now local sales have opened up. So yes, we've worked really hard to put out some offers, some interesting wines, and we've had some time to think of some interesting packs that we can put together for our fans. And so yes. I think we're very privileged to be able to be on a farm and have all this space and this freedom, and not the threat here is a lot smaller than it is in town or in the city. So yes, but obviously the staff, we are very aware of everything going on, and so it's been tough, but I think we are still very lucky to be able to be here and to have exported.
And you are sort of isolated anyway.
We're used to being in self-isolation.
Just tell us a little bit about the name of the wine, Sijnn, and the pronunciation of that word.
The name, how you pronounce it, Sijnn, and it comes from the Khoisan used to call the Breda River, and the area that we're situated at, they used to call it the Sijnn. So it's just the Khoisan word for this area. And obviously, a few thousand years back, this is where they used to be, and where they lived and what they called home. So yes, I feel it's a very authentic name for this area and what we're doing here.
One of the features of what we're talking about is a virtual wine tasting for the Silver Mountain Music Festival. Can you explain to us how that happens?
I've done a few virtual tastings. Obviously, tastings have changed drastically because people can't visit tasting rooms, and people can't really do tastings with each other or with a winemaker. So it's been very interesting, and it's actually been so much fun. I've done a few tastings in Holland or around the world, which has been amazing. Our importer there, he obviously distributed wines to clients, and I did a tasting like I'm doing with you now. So they've got the wines, they can smell, they can see exactly what they have in their glass, and I just go through the tastings like I would, when we sit face to face. But now we just have a screen between us. So that's a virtual tasting, and that's what we'll be doing for the Silver Mountain Festival as well.
So literally, just 5 of you run this whole operation.
Yes, so it's myself, and then the foreman and his wife, Harry and Elizabeth, and then another basically do everything here. And then we've got the chickens and the dogs and 2 babies.
And If I may ask, how did you come to be a winemaker?
So I'm from Joburg, from your hood, and went to school there, grew up there. And in my final year of matric, my dad said, "You have one chance to go study something. What do you want to study?" And he's a lawyer, and obviously they said, "Don't go into law." But I don't think they thought I would go into farming. And when I said I wanted to do winemaking, they were surprised. So at least it's a Bachelor of Science. So there was, if it didn't work out, I could at least go do something in a scientific background or scientific route. But I've enjoyed it since day one and worked a few harvests in Stellenbosch at Tukara and Kanonkop, and then went to California, worked there, worked a bit in Portugal, and I've been here for 6 years now.
Well, this is a wonderful story, and Sane wines are brilliant.